What is the CEO of one of the largest real estate brokers predicting to happen in the housing market this fall and winter? Well, the CEO of RedFin just recently announced that he believes we hit rock bottom in the housing market and to look forward to a tough market for home buyers this upcoming fall and winter season. Is he right? Is he wrong? Do you have different predictions? Let's drill into the data. Let's look at home prices, housing supply, and just the overall economy as a whole to see what will happen in the housing market. I'm going to share my computer screen with you all and just look at these different data points to see exactly where we're heading in the housing market as an economy. All right, so right here, the president of Redfin, Glenn Kelman, sees that sales volume could be worse. The only people moving right now are the ones who absolutely have to. So this is in regards to why we don't have as much of a supply in the market. And he's saying that people who are stuck or have their 2, 3, 4% interest rate, if they don't have to move, right? If there's not a drastic change in their career or within the family, they're not going to move. Whereas before, people will move for simple reasons or maybe just for a better school or a different area or to spice it up a little bit. People are not moving for those reasons anymore. The other thing that he mentions is the affordability of a home, right? So he says that people could go across the country. So if a home was too expensive in LA, they would be able to buy a $300,000 home in Oklahoma City. And now that trend is reversed. Apartments are expensive and houses are expensive. So I think household formation is going to be low, right? You see these price increases happening across the nation as a whole. And so cost of ownership, even in these, I guess, southern, eastern parts of this country is starting to see higher and higher prices. And so maybe less and less people are putting their homes for sale that are on the West Coast because they're all like, hey, I'm here in Tennessee or I'm here in Oklahoma. Yes, it's a little bit cheaper, but it's not as cheap as I thought it would be. Now, another thing that's shifting in the market is just how different generations are buying homes. So baby boomers between 46 and 64 who came of home buying age in 91 owned more real estate in their 30s than people in their 30s in 2023. In the first quarter of 93, those under 40 owned 20.6% of real estate, according to the Fed. And in the first quarter of this year, those under 40 only owned 14.2%. So this is an interesting stat because right now, millennials, people in their late 20s up to 40s now, are the largest group of individuals, right? And they don't even own as much homes as baby boomers back then. And so when you have the highest amount of people, right, most people, meaning the highest population are between late 20s, early 40s, right? Millennials, right? I think there's like 60 or 70 million of us within that range, right? That's more than baby boomers right now. That's more than younger people, Gen Zs. That's more than all these different generations. And so when you have this largest group of people not even buying homes, that's something to consider. One thing to think about is, number one, they just can't afford it. And number two, what does that do to the economy as a whole, right? That just props up big businesses even more to rent out properties, and where more and more people are just set on renting a home, renting an apartment. And eventually people need to be able to shift and not be a renter and be a homeowner. But it's difficult because home prices and all these different factors affecting the housing market. Younger generation will be more than willing to buy a home if they can afford it, but they just can't afford it. You know, that could also push society to defer the American dream of home ownership as renters stay put for longer before accumulating enough wealth to purchase a home. So you're seeing this rise in renters. You know, they're saving up their money in order for them to put a down payment so they can buy a house. But this is happening much later in their lives than generations before. All the money is owned by old people in America. And that transfer of wealth that normally happens when people are able to get a piece of the American dream just hasn't been happening over the past few years because home prices have been so expensive and credit has been tight. Because, yeah, there has to be a wealth transfer where all these baby boomers, as they pass away, they usually transfer their wealth to their heirs, and their heirs are usually people in the millennial generation, right? Or Gen Xers, or even Gen Zs. And so when that wealth transfer, how much do you have in retirement is it going to be enough for people in younger generations to even put a down payment on a house? That's something to look forward to in the future. Another thing that the CEO of RedFin was just predicting was just a tougher market, right? He says the market is at a standstill right now. Sales volume is absolutely rock bottom. The people who need to sell won't do it because they don't want to give up their mortgage. The people who normally would buy can't afford it. And this is what we were talking about in the other article, where you just have this yin yang, this like, oh no, I'm holding on to my house. But once they actually do sell their house, they want obviously market value for the house, and people cannot afford market value for their house. So it's just like supply issue, and in a way, there's not a demand issue, but the people who want houses just can't afford it. All right, so now I'm going to look at some Redfin data that's happening right now in the market. So we're looking at new listings, and the blue line represents 2023. Now we are still well below 2022 averages. We're down 16.5% on new listings. Now we did have a slight uptick over the past couple of weeks, but it's still extremely low, and we're not at the point where it affects home prices. Okay, and so that's something to look for, because hopefully this can increase during the fall and winter, but usually, as you all see, usually fall and winter, new listings go down because people are not wanting to move during colder weather, and people are not wanting to move during the holiday season. And so if this is able to at least reach this level, hopefully that produces more price stability or even lowering of home prices. I don't see that happening, unfortunately. And like Redfin CEO predicted, he doesn't see homes being as affordable later this year, right? Because he does still see a tough market. He does still see supply issues playing a role on everything. So let's look at homes sold. Homes sold is still below averages, yearly averages, but there was a slight uptick, so that's pretty good. Let's look at pending sales. Pending sales is up a little bit, but it's still below 2022 and 2021 averages. Now let's look at medium sale price. This is very important. Medium sale price it's above 2022, and we thought 2022 was the peak of home price, right? Of home price levels. But right now it's 3% over year over year. So around this time last year, homes were around 370,000, but now they're 381,000. So that's a full $10,000, $11,000 higher than last year. And at its peak, we reached 386, right? I don't think we reached 386 this year, but we're still in the 380s. And so you can see that home prices haven't really shifted this year. Yes, for a good amount of this year, it was like 2-3% lower than last year. But since the supply issues has really played a role this summer, home prices have flipped, right? They're starting to increase, which is strange. So hopefully during this time we can see some flattening now, at least. But home prices dropping like they did last year, where you see these like this line just going down. I don't see this blue line going down, right? Maybe stabilizing a little bit and going like that, a slight decline, but year over year it's always going to be higher year over year. That's my prediction. All right, you all, let me know your thoughts on the housing market and your predictions on what's going to happen with home prices. Do you believe with the Fed, whatever they're doing, whether they're going to hike the rate one more time this year, will this have a impact on home prices where it becomes more affordable for home buyers? Do you think that new construction now just picking up, will that increase supply into the housing market, which push home prices down? But what they're building, are they even affordable homes? Are they rentals? Are they just expensive homes? And it doesn't really have an impact on home prices. There's a lot of different things to consider in the housing market with all these things happening in the economy. All right, you all, let me know down below. Like, comment down below, and subscribe.